Hello there, skaters. Thanks a lot for tuning in. In today's video, I will be telling you everything you need to know in order to sit down and create your very own personal training plan. I'm going to divide the video into three main parts, of which the first is going to be how to actually become good at skating, the very sport-specific training. Then the second part is going to be the physical training, so how to develop your strength, your cardiovascular capacities, coordination, balance, so on. And then the final part is going to be on how to structure a full season plan so that you can build and then peak at the right time. If you're totally new to my channel, my name is Viktor. I'm an Olympic speed skater, and I have this channel where I share basically all the knowledge that I gathered over 20 years of skating and my degree in health and nutrition to help you guys become better at skating. Just before we get started with this video, I want you all to know that I just published my brand new sprint training plan. It's a 12-week plan for anybody looking to improve their sprints or their top speed on inline skates. So if you want to get better at skating, you should definitely check that out. It's in the description. There is hours of video material and I will guide you through the everyday workouts. So all the things I'm going to be sharing here is partly personal experience. It's going to be science-based, and then it's just going to be based on what I've seen as an online coach and when I've been doing my training camps over the years, and that's basically what I'm going to pass on to you guys. It is very difficult though to make a video that fits everybody because we're all different individuals and we all have different backgrounds, different goals, and different weaknesses. So a training plan can never just be a template plan that will work perfectly for everybody. That is also why I decided to start up as an online coach where I can help you out if you feel like you need some extra help getting even better at skating or getting fitter for the race season. With that being said, I have already made some template plans that you can apply. They're going to work for just about any level of skaters as they're based off of intensity. And you'll find links below. Currently there's two plans. I have one that is just a supplement, so weightlifting for speed skaters that you can add to your own training routine. And then the second plan is a 12-week training plan on how to prepare for an inline skating marathon. However, now we're about to get started with this video where I'll give you the information you would need to create your very own training plan. Step one is also the most important step. Learn to skate. This is the primary thing here. You can be super fit and you can spend hours on the bike, hours in the gym, but the most important part is always gonna be the skating. If you develop good technique, especially if you're a skater of young age, if you develop good technique, you will almost have that for life. Therefore, you should always start out with learning to skate well. You need to combine a ton of drills and repeat them over and over and over for years in order to really perfect your skating technique. Even at my level, as a professional, I still go back to basic technical drills very, very often, either as a maintenance or because I still need to work on it. By skating drills, if you see my channel, you probably know all the different kinds of skating drills that you can do. There's so much more to it. You can also develop this playing hockey with friends on your skates or by just taking a cruise through your city. It doesn't have to be very structured. It doesn't have to be on a track or a specific rink, but it's important that you play around on your skates just to develop that skate control and to feel comfortable on your inline skates. Another way to develop your skating is, of course, going for skates, like skating sessions, whether it's in a group, whether it's alone. There's a bunch of ways to do this. Make sure it still is fun for the most part, especially if you're a young skater developing. Then that has to be the drive, which is also why I recommend skating to be the majority of your workouts, because in the end, skating is what we love the most, and that's why we do skating as our sport. All right, so now that we went through skating being the most important part of becoming a good skater, we can move on to the second part of structuring a good training program. All the other things, how to become a better athlete in general. And you might think this is side benefits of skating a ton, which it also is, but there is some small hacks that can make you even stronger. Let's say you want to work on your cardiovascular system. It's quite simple to realize that it's much easier going for a 3-hour or 5-hour bike ride compared to going for a 5-hour long skate, simply because this is going to put a lot more strain on your body. You're going to carry your own body weight, and thus you can't go for as long. Whereas on a bike, you can continue for hours and hours in the same heart rate zones that you would on skates. And in the end, you're going to have a more cardiovascular for the entire system as an athlete benefit, which is why I personally do a lot of cycling, which is why all my athletes do a lot of biking. However, there's also other sports that you can do. Swimming is super gentle to the body, but you can still get a good aerobic workout in. Same goes for running. There is a little more bouncing, it's more impact, but if you do it at a controlled surface, at a controlled pace, you will still get the same aerobic benefits. When we look at other ways to improve, I would want to mention the Aerofit breathing device. I was about to say I've spent a lot of energy and hours, but I actually haven't. However, I use this every single day. It is impressively simple to use. It comes with an application. Now, this is not going to be a commercial or anything. This is just to explain how important it actually is for you to train your lungs. I mean, at the end of a skating race, it is, to most of us, very likely to be the limiting factor that we simply just can't breathe in enough oxygen to our muscles in order to continue skating at the pace we want. Therefore, this is something that is, in my opinion, highly underestimated in elite sports. So I would definitely recommend you to take a look at this. I would want to go into more details, but I've found somebody smarter than me, which is my breathing coach, Sean. And we actually had a conversation not long ago where we went through some of the benefits you get from using the Aerofit, and some even specific to speed skating. I'll let you have a look at that, and then we'll move on in a second.
You know, I talk to all kinds of athletes, not just speed skaters around the world. And the one invariable truth I find, and I think you're ahead of the curve, Victor, to be fair, just because you're conscious and aware and looking for these marginal gains. I work with some of the best athletes and talk to some of the best athletes in the world, and they're very familiar with things like VO2 max and, you know, high intensity workouts. And, you know, they even might know something about HRV. But most of them don't know a lot about the physiological science of respiration. And most of them have never spent time isolating the respiratory musculature, the diaphragm and the intercostals. And nobody really sits around thinking of those as separate muscles they need to train. They assume because they do aerobic workouts that that's kind of taken care of. So I was wondering maybe if you could start the conversation about, you know, how Aerofit started helping you with your training.
I've been able to tell right away that it improved my sleep. It took me less time to fall asleep. If you ask my fiance, I stopped snoring. So that
Hey, all right.
she also did benefit from the Airofit. Improved the overall time I spent in REM or deep sleep by 8%. If you
Wow,
compare
that's significant.
yeah, and that's if you compare the average of the 4 months prior to using the Aerofit and compare those to the 4 months after starting using the Aerofit. Disciplines or sports where you're in a breathing-wise uncomfortable position, such as skating, where I mean, if you look at the like performance, the technique, the aerodynamics, you force yourself in a terrible position when it comes to
Yeah.
using your lungs optimally. If you're closing down this area, because in skating you're very compact, you're very crunched over the entire time, because that's how you skate well. That not just having strong lungs to pull the air down, but really managing to use those lungs to, or use the lungs, expand the lungs in the right areas. And I really think for me that was half of it. If that inspired you to start your long training, I will leave a link below where you get a 15% discount so you can go and order your Aerofit ASAP and start improving that parameter. Another important aspect of skating is the strength, the muscle power, the explosivity, which is something that we also can train outside skating in the weight room or using dryland or plyometric exercises. I recommend to do dryland/plyometric exercises once a week, and for weightlifting, I suggest 2 weekly sessions. The reason for this is that if you only do weightlifting once, you're going to be sore after every session because your body won't really adapt to it, which is going to create more fatigue in the end, and that's going to steal energy from your skating. Or if you do more than twice a week, you have the risk of becoming a little too bulky, a little too big, and it's also just going to be very tiring. And I mean, the goal here is to get the most gains with the least fatigue so we can still preserve good skating and high quality on the wheels. Now, the third and final part when you put together your own training plan is also the most important part. It plays a massive role how much time you spend on wheels, how much time you spend in the gym, how much time you spend elsewhere building your aerobic fitness, and also how you adjust the load and the intensity throughout your season. The reason for this is that you want to peak at the right time and you want to make it to that ultimate goal of yours without overdoing it or underdoing it on the way. Of course, all the advice I'm going to give here is it's a little hard to really just apply it directly in your specific case, because it all depends how many hours per week you want to train, how much you've been used to training, and what do you want to get out of it. Therefore, I recommend you all to check out Sihi. Sihi is a quite amazing AI-based training plan where you simply plug in your availability and your goal, and then Sihi is somehow, with their technology, going to create a training plan specifically for you. At the same time, Sihi is also an awesome tool to use as your training journal. I use this myself. You can see some of my stats. It's also the program I use to create template ideas you're going to see here, and that you will see when I come up with some specific ideas on how your training could look. It simply just has more statistics than all the other platforms and apps that I've been seeing and using previously. So looking at a full season calendar, we can basically divide it in 3 main phases. The first one is going to be a very long one where it's just aerobic build. You can gain fitness. It doesn't necessarily have to be on skates for the most part, only the technical workouts, because we can get the same benefits in just about any sport. The second part becomes more sports specific, and this is also going to be where you increase the intensity and go down on the volume. This should last about 6 weeks, where the first part can really last up to half a year, depending on how much time you got to prepare before the event or the time you want to be good. And then ultimately, the last few weeks are going to be tapering, where you decrease the total volume, the total load of your training. And the reason for this is that in 2 weeks, you can really become much better, and you also can't lose much fitness. However, you can gain a lot of freshness if you make sure to recover well. However, the tapering shouldn't be a complete end to all your training. You should decrease. My advice would be to decrease from 100% down to 75 to 60%. And then the final week before your competition should only be 40 to 50% of the training load and volume you've been used to. However, you shouldn't go down on intensity. Maintain the intensity, but just decrease the total volume. So if you're doing a certain number of sets, decrease the amount of sets, but not the intensity. And same goes if you're lifting. Maintain the same kilos, preferably do the same exercises, but the number of sets should go down all the way to half. So the way you would actually want to go at it is that you look at your goal and then you calculate from that point and backwards, so that you make sure you have enough of every one of the 3 blocks. So if we dig into each block, the first block is going to be the fitness build, but also the technique foundation part of your training plan. So this is the one where you really have time. You have time to allow yourself to be slow. You have time to allow yourself to be tired, and you have time to dig into the technical aspects of skating and really become a better skater. I will now show you an example of a week plan here. This is obviously for somebody that has a lot of time to do skating, but as you can see, there's many hours. They're not necessarily on skates. Like I mentioned before, we can avoid some strain in the body and get more of these fitness hours in by using other sports modalities. However, there's some very skating specific sessions that are entire technique sessions, where all you do is just skating backwards, doing drills, slalom, one leg stuff, and then trying to apply it on your skates. Of course, there's going to be some long skates, and this goes for sprinters as well. Everybody needs to spend a lot of time with their inlines just to strengthen the muscles that we will use when we compete. Going on to the second part, where it's going to be more skating related, there's going to be more intensity. We're going to start working with our anaerobic tolerance and our anaerobic capacities, simply just to skate well when we get tired, and to increase the duration of which we can skate once we're dying and our legs are burning up, because inevitably in a race we're going to end up being super tired. This is also something you can train with the Aerofit as well. Actually, they have a lot of anaerobic sessions, so you can imitate that and strengthen your lungs in the not as fun part of doing sports. So there's going to be more skating. There's going to be either short intervals or sessions where you actually go all out. There's also going to be some race imitation. As you can see here, this is how I would put it. However, when I do my training plans to my client, I still try and work on the same things, but just decrease the overall volume and kind of make it simple. You can always add a dryland session after skating and so on. Same goes for the dryland. If we looked at the first part, the aerobic thing, for the first, say, 3 to 9 months, the dryland is very steady. It's more about the movements. It's more of a technical dryland where you really slow down things and learn to move the correct way, learn to sit in that position. It's going to burn more. It's also going to steal some of your snappiness, but build some muscle endurance. Whereas in this part of your program is where we take all that muscle endurance and we go more towards plyometrics, so fast exercises and building up our explosivity. Because in a race, even for marathons, you still need snappiness and you don't want your legs to be heavy because it is a very dynamic sport. Same goes for weightlifting. Looking at the first block of weightlifting, you need to build your power, you need to build your strength. It's going to be heavy stuff, whereas here it's going to be lighter. We can decrease the range of motion, so instead of going ass to grass squats or doing complicated lunges, which is good for flexibility, good for balance. However, this part of your season, we really just want that raw snappiness and that explosivity that we can carry over onto our skates, which is also why another way to decrease your overall training time if you are on a tight schedule is to combine these plyometric workouts with your weightlifting. It'll be easier to transfer strength and power into fast skating. Because you've got to remember always that we need to bridge that gap from physical stuff and strength, endurance, and bring it onto our skates to make that good skating and fast skating. The final block, the tapering, the ideal thing to do here is to not do anything. Try and change as little as you can, but just decrease the overall volume and load so you can be ready and fit for your race, whenever that might be. So before we finish this off, let me just throw that disclaimer back at you that everything I said in this video is so individual. It really depends on who you are as a skater, where you skate, where you train, how you've been used to training, and what you want to get out of it. Of course, some people might be injured, they might not be able to do some of the things that I said in this video, which is why it's always better to have an actual coach. It's also why I do online coaching. However, you can make it really far with a little bit of knowledge. I hope what I shared in this video is gonna prepare you to go out there and maybe get a little more out of your time on the skates and try and be a little more structured in your training plan. If there's anything I didn't answer, feel free to ask just about anything in the comments and I'll make sure to come back to you. If you're interested in my help as a coach or some of my templates, there's going to be links below, and you can also just hit me up on Instagram. The Aerofit, you'll find it below as well. Same goes with the C-Heat that can actually generate a customized training plan. Hope that, yeah, this was useful. It's fun. It's always fun to make videos for you guys, and it's awesome to read all the comments and how they help you. And then I'll just see you for next time. Thanks a lot for watching this video.